Well, to play while everybody's sitting down in the show.
We have a playlist that we're going to do for the
Okay. Well, we're live.
We're live.
Yeah. Welcome to Try a Little Tenderness, everybody. I'm going to introduce my guest that I've been posting on Facebook. So excited to be here. This is Katie, and this is Ann, and this is Kay. And welcome to Try a Little Tenderness. These ladies are representing V-Day, which is a version.
I guess it's Vagina Day.
Yeah. A version of the Vagina Monologue.
Yep.
Yes. And I did my research, and V stood for Victory, Valentine, and Vagina. That's what the V stands for.
That is good. Yeah.
So I'm not going to do a lot of talking today. These ladies have been just so excited about being here today, and I am, and I have this horrible feedback. Do you hear that? I don't know what that might be, and we are going to fix that. Amen. Good. Gotta love tech. Help.
So simple and yet fixed everything.
I know. Wow. I would have been fit to be tied. However, I'm going to let the ladies talk. Introduce yourselves and tell a little bit more about V-Day so everyone will know what I know. And and then the second set we'll do a little excerpts, small excerpts, just to wet their whistle. And wet was probably not a good word.
No, it's a great word when we're talking about the Vagina Monologue. It's pretty much
appropriate.
Yeah. So what I'm going to start with Ann, because Ann has been my contact, and then we'll work this way.
Sure.
Back to me.
So, as Luan said, my name's Ann. I have been involved with V-Day and the Vagina Monologues for 2 years now. This is my second year.
Okay.
So I'm pretty new compared to these ladies who are the real experts. So we're actually part of V-Day DC, and we're one group within V-Day DC.
Okay.
There are a lot of different people who are involved with the Vagina Monologues and with the organization that they support here in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And we just got there first and got the website, vdaydc.org, so that's why we think we're the best.
Okay.
It's part of a global movement. There are, I don't know how many countries around the world where V-Day is an active organization, or where the Vagina Monologues are performed.
Mm-hmm.
And why I got involved is that I like to feel a part of something bigger. And so not only was it a global movement about ending violence against women, ending sexual violence, it also was something that was important in my own community, in not just my DC community, but a broader community that I have felt a part of, especially as a young woman. Obviously, issues that speak very much to me. And thinking about how you can address these kinds of issues, and art has always been something that's important to me, and especially performance art. I have a theater background, and I don't currently do theater in my day job. So I was really excited when a friend of mine said that she was involved in this project, which is one of the main aspects and sort of part that people are probably most familiar with, is that we put on performances of the Vagina Monologues. So I was attracted first to the performance aspect of it, and then just such a great community of women all working together. And I would not have met either of these two friends of mine had it not been for the V-Day organization. And so it's so many levels of how this has impacted my life, and how I hope that it impacts other people's lives, whether you're involved as a member of the cast, whether you come to see a show, whether you come to any of the events that we've held leading up until the show. So it's been a really wonderful experience from that perspective, from the global all the way down to the personal.
Okay, well, we're going to talk to you next, but I know me, I get excited and I forget. There is a show coming, and so I want to plug it now and also at the end, so someone remember to do it at the end. But go ahead, it's next week.
Sure, we have 4 shows this year. We're really excited about all of them. March 15th, 16th, and 17th. On the 15th and 16th, the shows are at 8 p.m. And on the 17th, we have 2 shows, one at 3 p.m. and one at 7 p.m. and they are at the Universalist National Memorial Church at 16th and S Street Northwest.
Amen. Amen. I'm not in church. Okay. Been in church all day. Okay, got to shift hats. Now this is Katie.
Yes.
KT to everybody. Katie, go ahead.
And I really got involved in the Vagina Monologues here in DC after seeing it in college. This is my third year with the organization, and started out just selling tickets, and now along with Kay do publicity. And I think the most central part of the V-Day organization is raising awareness and money for this organization that fights against violence against women and does work to try and end violence against women. But for me, the most significant thing that the Monologues has done in my life is that it has been kind of my gateway drug into women's issues. I first saw the Monologues, was a little hesitant, was not really sure that I was like, I'm okay with my body. I don't really need to hear about it for a couple of hours. That's not my thing. And I went to see it because a friend was involved in it, and it was amazing, and got me thinking about my body and the women around me in ways that I had never had before. And so I have just found this amazing community of women who are also interested in women's issues, and been able to really explore those issues and get on stage and talk about my vagina, which is great.
So would you
so
say
much fun.
Would you say it's almost liberating just watching you talk about it? You look like I've been set free.
Yes, for sure. Like, I had never thought of myself as a prude before, but I am certainly far more comfortable now with my body and with the way I am in the world than I ever was before I got involved in V-Day. And so it has been a wonderful gift to me.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yes. Okay, so I have been involved with the Vagina Monologues for about 8 years now.
Mm-hmm.
But I started for the first time 9 years ago, also at college. I was at UCLA, I think a sophomore, and somebody took me to the show. It was actually a date thing.
Wow.
And
Good
yeah,
guy.
good guy, very good guy. Yeah, I guess he kind of guessed that I would like that kind of thing. And so we went to see this show, and I was blown away. I was really surprised that somebody had the balls or the ovaries to put this on paper, create a play, and have people perform these words and these stories that are usually untold and people don't really share, at least not openly with the public. And I fell in love, and I bought the book right after that, and I told myself that I had to get involved, so I contacted the director, and the next year I got involved, and I started acting, and that was my first time acting, and I've never done any other acting besides the show. This is the only thing that I live for in terms of theatrical, I guess, volunteer work, and I love it. But before I continue with my story, I want to take you way back, since I have been around for a little while longer for the Vagina Monologues, and I've read quite a bit about this, just to have a little history behind how this all came about.
Yes.
I think about 2 decades ago, maybe a little less than that, a woman named Eve Ensler, who is from New York, she decided, she was an actress and a playwright, and she wanted to write a play about vaginas. It was supposed to be a funny piece. She wanted to create something that was comedy. So she decided she was going to interview women about their vaginas and try to come up with stories that were going to be funny, and she was going to write a play. So she went and interviewed over 300 women from all types of backgrounds, and that is how she came up with this set of monologues that she has written, that are part of the play every year. It's about 13 of them. Some of them are very original, unique stories, and some of them are kind of a summary of the same story that kept repeating itself, themes that kept coming up. And also, although her goal was really to create a name for herself and to make money, she learned so much about violence against women through this process. She heard really funny stories. but she heard more than funny stories. She heard a lot of very sad, very surprising, and just things that she could not bear to just hear.
Mm-hmm.
She wanted to do something about it. And that's how this got created. That's how the V-Day movement started. She decided that she wanted to take it into her hands to have a fund where all the money that was created from the show got put into a pot, and she was going to try to help people around the world who were working in all kinds of ways, organizations or individuals or groups who were really working to end violence against women and girls.
Mm-hmm.
And that is how she started this. And it became a huge thing. And here we are, something that started in New York, which just introduced with women, turned into a movement.
Mm-hmm.
And it was first in the U.S., and it has expanded, like Anne was saying, to many parts of the world. It's actually pretty much everywhere now.
Yes.
Yeah, they just had some parliamentarians in the EU Parliament performed the
yes,
monologue
in
last
New
week.
York.
Oh, wow.
I went to do something like that in D.C., by the way.
Maybe we'll have some members of Congress.
If we do that. Yes, yes. But that is how all of this got started. So it was just a woman who went talking to other women and finding out that there are these unspoken truths that people don't know about. And she really wanted to make sure that everybody hears the stories, and she wanted to make sure that we do something about it.
She just really originally just wanted to talk about her vagina and just get it out there on paper. And then it grew.
Yes.
It changed.
Yes. It turned into a
Yeah.
movement, and it got huge. And I became involved with it. I think it was the 4th year that it was happening at UCLA. And I remember my first time, there were 2 shows. There was one in Spanish and one in English at UCLA. I was very proud to be in the one in Spanish too. So I had a part in Spanish and a part in English. And I managed to convince my parents to come see me, especially my father, who really didn't want to come see it. And also my brother, who was 14 years old. And my mother really liked it from the very beginning. First, there was the English show, and I did the Could Nurture the Could. We'll do a little...
It's the name of one of the monologues.
I will do a little bit of that later. And it's about a woman who she goes through a whole process of painful experiences with her vagina, and then she finds another woman and falls in love with her and realizes how beautiful she actually is.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the story that I did in English. But the next night, when I did it in Spanish, which my parents also came to see and sat on the 3rd row, I did The Women Who Love to Make Vaginas Happy.
Mm-hmm.
Which is a woman who was originally a lawyer, and then in her 30s realized that she loved to make women moan. And she became a sex worker, but only did work for women.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of this piece, you have to enact many moans, many different kinds of moans. So there I was on stage doing my moans in front of my father. I mean, there are a lot of people, but that was an experience that I am never gonna forget. Having my father, not because I did that part necessarily, but he came out after the show. He was just so reluctant to come to the show. But having come to me afterwards and tell me I had never heard about all these facts before, and I'm so proud of you for being part of this. It just really broke my heart. It was just in a good way.
Yes.
I was so happy to hear that. And my brother, at 14 years old, had learned that you have to be very nice to vaginas.
That is so wonderful. And that's a
Yeah.
great segue to something I read on, of course, Facebook. I live on Facebook today. And it was said by Betty White. And she said she doesn't understand why you have to say you have to have balls to do this, because balls are very delicate and very weak.
Mm.
So you should have vagina to do this, because a vagina can take a pounding.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like,
Yeah,
I was like,
yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's very true.
So with that said, we're going to do small excerpts. We have 45 minutes, no rush, you know.
Oh, wow,
But
show me my book.
Well, I think one thing also that is important, and I love that both Kay and Katie mentioned the sort of broader context that we exist in, that
right,
V-Day is an international movement, and we are a part of that.
right,
But it's also very much about your community and what you can do to help women in your community. And so every organization or every group that puts on the Vagina Monologues, and you sort of, request permission from the global V-Day organization to do that. You also choose a local group that will that you are fundraising for. So we have chosen a different group every year. This is the 5th year that that this group is putting on the show here in DC. And so we've chosen a different group every year. So last year, for instance, the DC Rape Crisis Center was our beneficiary, where 90% of the funds that we raised went to them, and we raised, I think, $12,000 for them last year. And this year, our beneficiary is an organization called the Polaris Project.
Yes.
That works to end human trafficking and slavery, modern day slavery. And they have a specific DC client service center that goes towards any people who are involved in victims of human trafficking in the Washington DC area, and any of the services that they might need, whether housing, food, clothing, psychological services, the full range of things that someone in that kind of a situation who contacts the Polaris Project might have needs for. That's where 90% of our funds that we raised this year largely through the performances.
And the different fundraisers that you do. So if they want to donate, they go on vdaydc.org, and there's a donate button.
Mm-hmm.
You can just donate. And all the funds for this year, 2012, will go to the Polaris group.
Polaris Project. Yeah.
Polaris Project. So we're going to keep reiterating that throughout the program today of Try to Attend this. I think it's going so well. I don't even think we're going to do commercials today. So because I want to get it all in, and I'm just so excited that I've even asked, please put me on the email that I know my husband's like, you don't need another thing to do, but I would love to experience participating in the Vagina Monologue. I don't know how. Maybe I can get there and talk about how the vagina enjoys toys or something. Figure it out.
There's a monologue that talks about toys.
Mm-hmm. It's been a minute since I've seen it, but I do remember seeing her do the original one and just like, oh my God, that is just fabulous for women. So, definitely. So, yes.
I was just going to say, I felt like I should mention that 90% of our proceeds go to the Polaris Project, and 10% go each year to the International Spotlight Campaign. And last year and this year, because of the disaster following the earthquake in Haiti, the Spotlight Campaign has been the women and girls of Haiti.
Oh.
And so 10% of our funds have gone to that, and they have service centers for women in 3 different parts of Haiti, because there has been such an uptick in sexual violence since the earthquakes, because people are living in camps with very little security. They can't lock their doors at night because they live in tents. And so there has been much more sexual violence there. And so these service centers exist both to provide legal services to people who want to pursue their legal options with regard to sexual violence, and then all of the other support services for women who have been victims of sexual assault, psychological services, and providing them a safe place to live so that it doesn't happen again, and just all of the myriad things that need to happen for somebody who's been put in that situation. So 90% goes to our local beneficiary, which is the Polaris Project, and 10% goes to this international campaign. And so we're really proud of that.
I'm just in awe of everything that you guys do. Just reading doing the research, I was like, wow, they really are making a difference. And again, from just a dream, taking her dream to talk about the vagina.
She just knew she wanted to talk about vaginas.
And who knew?
Everyone wants to hear about vaginas. We want to hear.
We want to hear about vaginas. So who wants to go first to talk about whatever?
Do our monologues?
Do your monologue.
I don't know. Well,
Do
you want to go first?
do you have a script?
I have my piece with me. I
Well,
have to stand up and get it.
Well, we can go to a commercial.
let's do a commercial and then we'll
Go
go
make
over.
us perform on the spot here.
That's okay. That's television, and it's okay. We're just chilling out and talking to everyone. Woo, hope I don't flash anybody in the camera.
but I found a workaround. I was very excited.
I hope that's what you're still
Okay, woo!
We're back on.
We're back. Welcome back to Try a Little Tenderness. We had to.
Savon, I don't know if you're in the shop.
No, not quite yet. Reshuffle and get things going. I moved down because we were about to really have a real vagina monologue. I got a call from one of the engineers and said my dress was going up and up and up. So we shift. And we're going to go to the ladies and let them do some small excerpts of the vagina monologue. So again, welcome back to Try a Little Tenderness. We won't take any more commercials. We'll stay on until 9. Keep it going and should I say flowing. So, so I don't know which one is who's going to start first. Or are you going to do the group one first?
We're gonna
Group one.
do the intro, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, please enjoy.
And if you want to see more, since we're only going to do excerpts, you should come to our shows.
Definitely.
Next week, Thursday, Friday, Saturday.
We're going to plug it again at the end.
BDADC.org. Okay, so, introduction. I bet you're worried.
We were worried.
We were worried about vaginas. We were worried what we think about vaginas, and even more worried that we don't think about them.
We were worried about our own vaginas. They needed a context of other vaginas, a community, a culture of vaginas.
There's so much darkness and secrecy surrounding them. Like the Bermuda Triangle. Nobody ever reports back from there.
In the first place, it's not so easy to even find your vagina. Women go weeks, months, sometimes years without looking at it. A high-powered businesswoman was interviewed and she said she was too busy. She didn't have the time. Looking at your vagina, she said, that's a full day's work. You have to get down there on your back in front of a mirror that's standing on its own, full length preferred. You've got to get in the perfect position with the perfect light, which then is shadowed somehow by the mirror and the angle you're at. You get all twisted up, you're arching your head up, killing your back. You're exhausted by then. She said she didn't have the time for that. She was busy.
So there were vagina interviews, which became Vagina Monologues. Over 200 women were interviewed. Older women, young women, married women, lesbians, single women, college professors, actors, corporate professionals, sex workers, African American women, Asian American women, Hispanic women, Native American women, Caucasian women, Jewish women. Okay.
At first, women were reluctant to talk. They were a little shy. But once they got going, you couldn't stop them. Women secretly love to talk about their vaginas. They get really excited, mainly because no one's ever asked them before.
I will stop with the intro right there.
Just a little tease.
A little tease. There's more, but you can come watch that next weekend. Okay, the next one's going to be hair. Should I do the introduction for hair?
Sure.
So, some of the monologues are based on one woman's story. Some of the monologues are based on several women's stories surrounding the same theme. And a few times, a good idea became an outrageous one. This monologue is based on a women's story, although the subject came up in every interview and was often fraught. The subject being hair.
You cannot love a vagina unless you love hair. Many people do not love hair. My first and only husband hated hair. Thought it was cluttered and dirty. He made me shave my vagina. It looked puffy and exposed and like a little girl. This excited him. When he made love to me, my vagina felt the way a beard must feel. It felt good to rub and painful. It felt like it was on fire. There were screaming red bumps. I refused to shave it again. Then my husband had an affair. When we went to marital therapy, he said he screwed around because I wouldn't please him sexually. I wouldn't shave my vagina. The therapist had a German accent and gasped between sentences to show her empathy. She asked me why I didn't want to please my husband. I told her I thought it was weird. I felt little when my hair was gone down there, and I couldn't help talking in a baby voice. And it got irritated, and even calamine lotion wouldn't help it. She told me marriage was a compromise. Sorry. I asked her if shaving my vagina would stop my husband from screwing around. I asked her if she'd had many cases like this before. She told me that questions diluted the process. I needed to jump in. She was sure it was a good beginning. That's one more part of it.
And we're going to move on to the flood.
I'm going to do 2 in a row.
Yes.
Okay.
Do the intro for her.
Sure.
A group of women between the ages of 65 and 75 was interviewed. These interviews were the most poignant. Possibly because many of these women had never had a vagina interview before. One woman, who was 72, had never even seen her vagina. She washed herself in the shower and bath, but never with conscious intention. She had never had an orgasm. At 72, she went into therapy, as they do in New York, and with the help of her therapist, she went home one afternoon by herself, lit some candles, took a bath, played some music, and she got down with herself. She said it took her over an hour because she was arthritic. But when she finally found her clitoris, she said, she cried. This monologue is for her.
Oh, Andy. Andy Lefkov. Right. Andy was very good looking. He was a catch, that's what we called it in my day. We were in his car, a new white Chevy Bel Air. I remember thinking that my legs were too long for the seat. I have long legs. And they were smushed up against the dashboard, and I was staring at my big kneecaps when all of a sudden he just kissed me in this surprising take me by control like they do in the movies kind of way, and well, I got excited. So excited, and well, there was a flood down there. I couldn't control it. Just this river of life, this river of passion just flowing right out of me, right through my panties, right onto the car seat of his new white Chevy Bel Air. It wasn't pee, and it was smelly, or frankly, I couldn't smell anything, but Andy said, that it smelled like sour milk. And it was staining his car seat. I was a stinky, weird girl, he said. I wanted to explain that his kiss had simply caught me off guard, and I wasn't normally like this. I tried to wipe the flood up with my dress. It was a new yellow primrose dress, and it looked so ugly with the flood on it. After that, Andy drove me home without saying another word. And when I got out and closed the car door, I closed up the whole shop. Never opened for business again. I dated after that, but the idea of flooding made me too nervous. I never even got close again. Like we said, these are all the small parts.
Just teasers to get it to come out next
There's
week.
way more.
So one of the things that gets emphasized for the Vagina Monologues is that these are not our stories. We are here to represent, in some case, universal stories, and in some case, the stories of very, very particular women who had these experiences. And so the real fun of this monologue for me is doing it in a British accent. in part to represent the character that this is. So, if you are confused, I am not British. But I like.
She's just really good at the accent.
I just like to think that this character is. My vagina is a shell, a round, pink, tender shell, opening and closing, closing and opening. My vagina is a flower, an eccentric tulip, the petals delicate, the scent gentle, the center acute and deep. I did not always know this. I learned this in the Vagina Workshop. I learned this from the woman who runs the Vagina Workshop, a woman who believes in vaginas, who really sees vaginas, who helps other women see their own vaginas by seeing other women's vaginas. In the first session, the woman who runs the Vagina Workshop asked us to draw our own unique, beautiful, fabulous vagina. That's what she called it. She wanted to know what her own unique, beautiful, fabulous vagina looked like to us. One woman who was very skinny, one woman who was pregnant, drew a big red mouth screaming with coins spilling out. Another very skinny woman drew a kind of big serving plate with a kind of Devonshire pattern on it. I drew a big black dot with little squiggly lines around it. The black dot was equal to a black hole in space, and the squiggly lines were meant to be people or things or just your basic atoms that got stuck up there. I had always thought of my vagina as a kind of anatomical vacuum randomly sucking up particles and objects from the surrounding environment. I did not think of my vagina in practical or biological terms. I did not, for example, see it as something attached to me.
And we do, not that one. Okay. Introduce it very quick.
Mm-hmm.
This monologue was based on an interview with a woman who had a good experience with a man.
This is how I came to love my vagina. It's embarrassing because it's not politically correct. Oh, I lost my spot. Pardon me. Technical difficulties.
It's okay.
I thought you go up and down.
Yeah, you do.
Put your fingers and go up and down.
Yeah, right.
My two fingers
Vagina
do go up
goes.
and down.
It works. This is how I came to love my vagina. It's embarrassing because it's not politically correct. I mean, I know it should have happened in the bath with salt grains from the Dead Sea, Enya playing, me loving my woman self. I know the story. Vaginas are beautiful. Our self-hatred is only the internalized repression and hatred of the patriarchal culture. It isn't real. Pussies unite! I know all of it. Like, if we'd grown up in a culture where we were taught fat thighs were beautiful, we'd all be pounding down milkshakes and Krispy Kremes, lying on our backs, thigh expanding.
Yes.
Yes.
But we didn't grow up in that culture. I hated my thighs, and I hated my vagina even more. I thought it was incredibly ugly. I was one of those women who had looked at it, and from then on, I wished I hadn't. It made me sick. I pitied anyone who had to go down there. In order to survive, I began to pretend that there was something else between my legs. I imagined furniture, cozy futons with light cotton comforters, little velvet settees, leopard rugs or pretty things, silk handkerchiefs or place settings. Then I met Bob. Bob was the most ordinary man I have ever met. Bob did not like spicy food or listen to Prince. He did not share his inner feelings. He did not have problems or issues and was not even an alcoholic. He didn't drive fast. I didn't particularly like Bob. I would have missed him altogether if he hadn't picked up my change that I dropped on the deli floor. When he handed me back my quarters and pennies, and his hand accidentally touched mine, something happened. I went to bed with him. That's when the miracle occurred. Turned out that Bob loved vaginas. He loved the way they felt, the way they tasted, the way they smelled, but most importantly, he loved the way they looked. He had to look at them. The first time we had sex, he told me he had to see me. I'm right here, I said. No, you, he said. I have to see you.
Oh, what a good team.
Good for you.
Oh, it's good. It just gets better, don't it?
This is a great build-up. We're down
That's
to...
where we go.
Oh, my goodness. So we're going to the moan one now. We're at 8. We have 10 minutes left.
We have 10 minutes?
But I definitely want you to do that. And then...
okay, we'll move on to that moaner, and then we'll do another one.
Okay.
Very quick, and then we'll
Wrap
recap.
Up. Okay.
And wrap up and do whatever else you do at the end of the show. Yes. No comments. No.
I don't know if you could tell, but we are not TV personalities here.
That's okay. That's okay.
Well,
I love the natural flow of things.
Intro, please.
Yeah. Sex workers have rich, compelling, complex relationships with their vaginas. This particular woman blows my mind. She was a sex worker, but she only did sex work with women.
And this is a pretty involved one, so I'm gonna take up a little bit more space, and I think it should be fine here. But if you could scroll it down for me as time passes, that'd be great. I love vaginas. I love women. I do not see them as separate things. Women pay me to dominate them, to excite them, to make them come. I did not start out like this. No, to the contrary. I started out as a lawyer. But in my late 30s, I became obsessed with making women happy. It becomes a mission of sorts, but then I got involved in it. I got very good at it, kind of brilliant. It was my art. I started getting paid for it. It was as if I had found my calling. I wore outrageous outfits when I dominated women, lace, silk, leather, and I used props, whips, handcuffs, ropes, dildos. There was nothing like this in tax law. There were no props, no excitement, and I hated those blue corporate suits, although I wear them now from time to time in my new line of work, and they serve quite nicely. Well, should I move on to the good stuff? We're going to move down to the moan. So basically, this woman becomes very obsessed with making women happy. I'm only going to do a few moans so we don't give it all away.
Yes.
And then we'll move on to another one.
Just okay.
Yes. So,
You're
okay.
excited.
Let me actually do these paragraphs because I think it'll be good.
I'll scroll.
Okay. Now I need to go back.
Oh,
Excuse us. Technical difficulties again.
I can't work computers very well.
Okay, let's start here. I made love to quiet women, and I found this place inside them, and they shocked themselves in their moaning. I made love to moaners, and I found a deeper, more penetrating moan. It was a kind of surgery, a kind of a delicate science, finding the tempo, the exact location or home of the moan. That's what I called it. Sometimes I find it over a women's jeans. Sometimes I snack up on it off the record, quietly disarming the surrounding alarms and moving in. Sometimes I use force, but not violent, oppressing force, more like dominating. I'm going to take you someplace. Don't worry, lay back and enjoy the ride kind of force. Sometimes it was simply mundane. I found the moan before things even got started. While we were eating salad or chicken, just casual, just right there with my fingers. Here it is like that, real simple in the kitchen, all mixed in with a balsamic vinegar.